Now, someone who has been a bit active on this subject, we love him here on TalkTV and Talk Radio, is the outspoken Lee Anderson, one of my comments from Parliament. And he said, what did he say? So he said, an asylum seeker who doesn't want to go on the Bibby Stockholm barge should F off home. Sorry, he should say F off back to France. Now, this was misquoted by Nick Robinson, the BBC reporter, who said that he had said he should F off home. Now, what I want to know from Rebecca Ryan, who's joining us from Defund the BBC. Rebecca, is this a simple slip of the tongue for Nick Robinson, putting these words into Lee Anderson's mouth, or is it more evidence that the British Broadcasting Corporation is institutionally lefty, as it were?
I think we all know now that the BBC is anti-British, isn't it? And I think that, you know, this isn't a slip of the tongue. We see this time and time again from the BBC, this kind of bias, putting incorrect words into the mouths of MPs. And I think that, you know, we're seeing now more than ever that people are deciding they just don't want to pay for the licence fee. They don't want to pay for the BBC because they're sick to death of this kind of bias. Yeah, it's just an outrage, really, that we're supposed to be able to, for the BBC to charge us for the licence fee. They're obliged to deliver excellent journalism, journalistic excellence and impartiality. And they show time and time again that they're incapable of doing that, in which case they're in breach of their contract with the British people, and we need to get rid of the TV licence.
Well, Rebecca, you know, this is headline news. This slip by Nick Robinson, which he apologised for later, about half an hour later on the show, that he'd misquoted. This is headline news. We're talking about it here on Talk Radio and Talk TV. So surely this isn't very common. Otherwise, you sort of talk about it, you know, they're constantly misquoting politicians. It can't be that common. Otherwise, we wouldn't be talking about it, would we?
I mean, I am on Talk TV fairly frequently talking about whenever the BBC makes a biased comment, I have to say. So it is pretty frequent. Maybe that's not seeping through to yourselves in Westminster, but you know, these kind of slip-ups are being made all the time. You know, only last week we had the revelations that the BBC was forced into apologising because they said that the Dam Busters was infamous. So they're making these kinds of slip-ups all the time, and it's just indicative of the kind of groupthink there at the BBC, where a word where they sort of changed one word from home to back to France. And yeah, obviously Lee Anderson's language was colourful. No one can deny that. But it's a one word that they've changed that makes a huge amount of difference. And the BBC should be all over making sure they're completely accurate about the kinds of things that they're saying. And they're just not. They are making these mistakes all the time.
But I say, look, Nick Robinson apologised. I mean, does that help, or should he be doing more?
I think, like I said, people are seeing these errors all the time. It's this type of thing. And then people are just tired of paying for the BBC. You know, if we got rid of the licence fee for if anybody watched live broadcast TV, for example, which is what it's currently connected to, if we got rid of that and said you only have to pay for the BBC if you want to watch the BBC, then the BBC would be free to make whatever mistakes it wanted to and be accountable to those that are paying for it. But at the moment, you have a British public who are really reluctant to pay for this organisation. Poll after poll shows that, you know, around 2/3 of the country want to get rid of the licence fee. And that means that if we could get rid of the licence fee and it was only attached to BBC content and not for watching, you know, Sky Sports or whatever, then the BBC would be answerable to those that are paying for it.
Well, I'd pay for it. I would say now I would pay for it because I've got 3 kids. I like them watching CBeebies and children's television on the BBC because there's no adverts. I'm sure lots of people who have children value the output the BBC does for kids particularly. I don't listen to BBC Radio News or watch BBC News anymore. I get it from Talk and other radio and television stations like that. So your view is it needs to go to a Netflix sort of, you pay for your subscription, you pay your X pound a month, whatever it may be, pay for it if you want it, and then it's turned off everyone else's telly.
Well, pretty much how people are watching entertainment and news type content these days is that they're watching on-demand content as you know, that's more and more the case, particularly anybody under the age of 35. But we've seen, as a result of COVID, people over that age have also now clued up to, you know, watching content on demand rather than sitting there waiting for things to be broadcast to them. And we've seen this sea change in how content is consumed. And what you see now is the likes of ITV Hub and Channel 4. You have the options of watching on demand, or you can watch it live, but with adverts, or you can pay a subscription to get rid of the adverts. And for the BBC to have that kind of similar pay structure is what people expect now and what they're absolutely used to.
Brilliant. Thank you, Rebecca. That's been really interesting. Thank you for coming on Talk TV and Talk Radio.